Okay, let's get into it. Welcome in, everybody. New edition of Celtics Beat. Evan Valenti. I am Adam Kaufman. Of course, our special guest, Abby Chin, back on the program for the. I didn't actually look up the last time you were on. I just know it was too long ago, Abby. So it's great to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing well. I have a few questions.
Okay.
Number one, episode 497. Do you guys have big plans for 500?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked because I was hoping that you could help us with that.
We're talking numbers.
Yeah, over at because Evan has mentioned that maybe on air, but definitely off air a number of times that 500 seems like a big pinnacle number that we need to celebrate. What I would really like is, I'm dreaming big here. If we get like KG or Pierce or both to come on and okay.
I think that's a great idea, and you should certainly pursue it.
Yeah, I know I wouldn't know how to pursue it, but we should pursue it. We haven't had Eddie yet on, despite the best of my efforts. But he's what I would describe as an inconsistent texter.
I was gonna say he's tough to nail down. Yeah.
We'll go back and forth, and then he'll disappear, and then we'll go back and forth, and he'll disappear. And I would very much like to have him on the show. You should tell him he is, and this is not hyperbole. He is one of my favorite Celtics of all time.
I will tell him that, and he will love to hear that. And I will ask him to text you back. But also, then my other numbers question is, well, you don't know how many times I've been on this show. Last night at the Celtics game, they celebrated 2,000 broadcasts for the legendary radio broadcasters, Sean Brandy and Cedric Maxwell, who's also a part of the network, I know.
Of course.
And I was just wondering who keeps track of that. And I want to know is there someone out there keeping track? I want to know how many games I have been to.
So it's funny you say that because they first like you said they had the celebration I guess last night and gave Sean and Max the basketballs with their names on and all that stuff. But they first acknowledged it it was a week or week and a half ago that I think let me see, I'm looking at the schedule. Yeah, it was before
we left on that trip.
Game. So it was the New Orleans game, I think, on January 11th was when they recognized
that was the official 2000 broadcast.
Well, so you say that. We don't know that because but that's exactly like the point you're driving at. I called Sean I was talking to him about a couple of ththings and I congratulated him on that. I was like, man, so that one was 2000. And he goes, honestly, I have no idea. I don't think anybody knows. It's like I think it's a rough estimate.
Ballparking.
It's like a ballpark 2000 because he knows when he starts, obviously, or started and remembers, that first game and everything. But there have been so many instances over the years where he's done TV, obviously, like Mike's been out, or, Max has been somewhere else and they haven't been together. So he doesn't know exactly how many games he's done or whether they've even done 2000 together and all, like versus 2000 on the radio. So it actually, it is kind of a mess. So it's very much an estimate, but it's a ballpark estimate. So it works.
So you're saying there is not someone out there keeping track of how many games I have covered?
If anyone would be keeping track of it, it would be John.
He's the
stats guy. What about Dick Life?
That was going to be where I was going. Dick's the master of stats. Like that guy's got more stuff in the middle of the broadcast that really it'll get Mike to laugh or Scala laugh at the stat. And I love when it happens, but he's just a machine. I don't know how he does.
He's a machine. He's a machine who also is efficient and doesn't worry about silly things like that. So like how many games?
You never know. Have you asked him? He might have it. He might have that number.
I don't know. I don't think that's in one of his spreadsheets, but yes.
But the other
Dick Life. We cannot disrespect Dick Life.
Ever. Stats are incredible for sure. But sports stat keeping in general sort of pisses me off. Like this is a whole tangent that we won't spend a lot of time on here, I promise, because this is just it's Celtics or it's not Celtics, sports in general. And it sort of is like the Grandy 2000 games thing or Grandy and Max 2000 games thing. Is that all games? Is it regular season games? Does it include playoffs? Because we're this with the Bruins lately, right? Like David Krejci just celebrated his 1000th NHL game, but it's not. he hit that milestone like 3 years ago, if you include like 200 playoff games. So I don't know. I don't know why we do that as sports fans. And it's so inconsistent. Like in the NFL, when we talk about Tom Brady's all-time passing yardage or Bill Belichick's, how many wins is he shy of Don Shula? That includes playoff numbers. So I don't, or like Jayson Tatum recently,
That's
like,
where I was going,
he had his 5th career 50-point game. No, he didn't. It was like his 7th or 8th because of the play-in game and playoff games.
Regular season 50.
It's stupid, but nobody ever says regular season. We say career. So why do we do this, Abby? Can you have more power than me? Can you start the engine toward fixing this and changing this? Because it's pissed me off for years.
I do feel like people specify that. That's why. And that's why you can manipulate the stats and find the first ever game in the regular season where someone scored 25 points on 4 or 5 shooting and hit 7 threes and 4 steals. And like, that's why you can do that, because you have to specify that. So I do think that those stats are specific to those things. It's just a matter of, is that included? You got to get back to the journalism, right? You have to state that in your article. And then also, so much of the podcasting world and TV and stuff, that takes time to say all of those things and to get it completely accurate. So I think maybe that's where the translation kind of falls down. But Dick Life is very good about saying this is the regular season, or this is playoffs, or this is career, and when everything is happening. And that's my source. So yeah.
Dick's great. This isn't about Dick. This is about all the other people out there that just neglect to say regular season when it's and instead call it a career thing. It's annoying. So those were a couple of your questions. Did you have more numbers questions?
No, I think that was it.
Would you like to interview us? It's okay.
That would be a fun change up. That'd be a good time.
Maybe that's what we'll do for the 500 show.
That's kind of what I do every day. So
yeah,
change up for you guys.
Evan, that's what we'll do for show number 500. We'll just have, like Abby, we'll have some of our favorite guests back to interview us about our our favorite memories of the first. And neither of us has done 500 shows either. Like I came in at, I don't know,
this is a great
3 something or 4 something. This show has been around for a long time.
You came in at 400?
I did. I've been doing this show for what I think since 2018, and it existed for years prior to that.
Yeah.
So I came in at I don't know what number it was. It wasn't even close to 1. Tell you that.
I was going to look this up at some point because we get to 500. I'll probably should have the stat, but I think I've been on the most shows of anybody in this pod's history. I'd have to go back and check that because it's either me or Larry at this point. And I was filling in for Larry at certain points. Then it was mine, and then we brought Kaufman aboard, and Kaufman just was like, "Yeah, we'll get you on, as like a co-host sort of thing." So I gotta think how far back I go because it's I don't know, maybe 5-6 years of this now. I don't know. It's been a long time. I lose track, but it's amazing that 500 is a pretty amazing accomplishment, regardless of stuff. That's 500 straight weeks of Celtics beat in your inbox or phone or whatever the hell you use.
Other than a brief few week COVID hiatus that took place.
Well, there's no we could do. There's no sports going on.
Sports cancellation.
We could have done the rewatchables, but done it with the past Celtics games. But that's just who's around for that bit.
Yeah.
My last numbers thing.
Yeah.
I did have one more apparently.
Yes.
Last night was the Celtics 6,000th regular season.
Or regular season.
A regular season game.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
No, that's right. I believe it was a milestone last night.
Listen,
and I was so confused because Dick Light obviously has been tracking this stat for weeks, and I was so confused as to why the Knicks had 9 less games than the Celtics. I mean, they've been in the league. However, the NBA is measuring these things every single season, lockstep. But I learned last night it's because the bubble took away 6 or 7 games, and then just random stuff in between there. The marathon bombing was one for us, so that should equal things out. But 9 just seemed like a lot, but the bubble explains it all. So that's why.
I just double checked 6,000 regular season. That is correct. And but they've also been to the playoffs like 70,000 times. So
way more.
59 playoff appearances. So who knows how many more playoff games in there?
Few more than the Knicks.
A few more titles too. Yeah. So all right. I feel like to apologize, not to either of you, but to our listeners for putting just a hex on this team when we did our show last week, Ev, with Landman, because I said right before the end of that show, this team has won 8 straight games, and this is all wonderful, and we have nothing to complain about. And you know, God forbid somebody get hurt. That's the only thing that can derail it. Well, all of a sudden they've lost 3 straight games, and they're absent like 4 starters every game. Inexact.
We have you to blame, Kaufman. This is your fault.
Entirely. The group chat messages were directed directly at Kaufman. I mean, this is your fault.
Good to know. At least you have someone to blame. It's always it's nice to have someone to blame.
Like the TNT broadcast, I blamed them last night for showing Jalen's free throw numbers right before he took the last 2 free throws of the game. That is, I mean, come on, guys. This is basic stuff here.
But here's what I'm going to ask you, Abby. I guess this is kind of the first official question of the show, like 10 minutes in. Okay. Losses in Orlando, in Miami, obviously at home against the Knicks, all winnable games. Well, I guess other than Orlando, the Celtics may never beat the Orlando Magic. This is like the Shaq and Penny Magic taking on the D Brown and Todd Day and Rick Fox Celtics whenever these teams match up. Can't beat them. But other than that, shorthanded, miserably shorthanded against the Heat. They didn't have Jimmy Butler either, blah, blah, blah. And obviously we know they weren't at full strength against the Knicks either. But these are 3 teams that you don't have to worry about, maybe Miami, but certainly the other 2 you don't have to worry about going forward. Where I'm driving at here is, do we care? Like, does this really matter? Do you take anything from these 3 losses in terms of how you view this team right now?
I know that Celtics Nation was pretty angry after the loss last night. And the missed free throws from Jaylen Brown and all of that. I can't get there right now. And I'm sorry. I would like to, I typically like someone to empathize with me when I am in a bad, negative place. But this is game 50 of 82. One thing that I learned last season is that I had never experienced before is a run to the finals is long. They play for 3 more months after the end of the regular season. And those games are intense, and you have to maintain a certain focus and play with a certain physicality that you just you can't replicate in the regular season. And then particularly at this point in the regular season, that was game 50, while we're talking numbers again, last season of 82. The All-Star break is just on the horizon. And I know it's so cliche to say that these are the dog days of summer, or dog days of the season. But this is the first time, and I don't know if it is because of the finals run or whatever, in my 10 years covering the team, that I too am just like, oh my gosh, let's go. Like, it just, and so I honestly, I can't get that angry about it because I'm kind of feeling those same things too. And so I feel like this is a natural progression. I feel like we see the top teams in the league. This is the LeBron James who doesn't care about what seed he gets when he's going into the playoffs. The Golden State Warriors who goodness knows where they were at this point last season and still made the run to the championship. So I think that what Joe Mazzulla said last night is it's tough to do the simple things really well every single day. And that is absolutely true about human nature. And it is why I am not panicking about this team. They have shown us the potential that they have. They are still the number 1 team in the league and have shown that they have switches to flip. I mean, we saw it in the 4th quarter last night when they needed to stop Jalen Brunson. They buckled down and stopped Jalen Brunson. So yes, you would have liked to see them do that earlier. But it's there, it's possible. And I just cannot get outraged about a game in the end of January.
I agree. I agree with all that.
When Abby throws out the like, Joe, it's tough to do the simple thing. All I could picture is like Brad with his, hand up Joe's butt like a puppet. It's if ever there was a Brad Stevens-ism,
that's a good thing. You have consistent communication between your front office.
The message is consistent.
That's good stuff.
And that's not a slight on Joe. It's more a point that they are just so similarly minded in the way they think, in the way they speak. It's absolutely true. Evan, I will let you go, but just to Abby's point about what she was saying with Golden State, let's not forget the Celtics. Just perspective. I'm not even saying it for the sake of comparison, just perspective. Game 50 last year, the team was 25-25. It hadn't even really started its run to what it became until this very exact point 1 year ago. So just something to keep in mind as far as what can still happen going forward.
Absolutely. And it's not like, again, the world isn't, crumbling apart in terms of like the Celtics are going to be fine. Okay. They're an excellent team. As Abby pointed out, they locked in the last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. When they really needed to make stops, they made them. When they needed to score baskets, the other end, Jayson Tatum put on an absolute clinic at the end of the game. At the end of the regulation last night, he was amazing getting to the basket, getting to the rim, basically whatever he wanted. The only thing I'll push back on is the fact that, like, I don't know if the Celtics have that kind of built-up cachet that the Warriors have and like the LeBron James of the world have. Like, this is a team that's been in the playoffs a lot. They've gone deep in the playoffs. They finally got through, broke into the finals, but ultimately lost the finals. As much as I want to, get on the, like, look, it's a long season, things are going to happen. You can't get overly invested in one game or one small outcome when there's 82 games. Like, I totally get that. But this is a team that I don't think can afford too many brain fart losses like this at the end of games when the top of the East is so tight. And I think Boston, given the way their roster set up, would like to maybe give guys some extra rest towards the second half of the season at the end of the year. And the bigger the buffer you can build on the Nets and the Sixers and the Cavs and the Bucks, the better, right? If Boston is going to go far in the playoffs, we all believe, and my belief is if they'll go further if they have all the advantages they can have, aka home court advantage, for as long as they can, right? The Garden is a real, as you saw last night, like, that place has some legitimate energy, and it definitely focuses this team up in a way that, not a lot of arenas can. So the more games you can play at home, the better. Again, I still have a ton of faith in this team. It's not like I don't, but I as much as I want to get to like who cares, I'll get there when I know this team has the first seed locked up and they're going to be hosting every playoff game in the Eastern Conference at home. So, I think they're definitely poised for it. It's just, it don't get caught up in one loss, but at the same time, like, they went real cold for a long time last night, and it was just one of these things where it got really frustrating. They let Julius Randle for about 3 quarters get really comfortable on the floor and get wide open 3-point shots. Jalen Brunson at times got real comfortable on the floor, got inside the arc and had these long 2 pull-ups that were really not contested that well. Like, I would prefer to see a little more focus, but at the end of the day, like, again, this team's going to be fine as long as everybody's healthy at the end of the day. But I don't know. I guess maybe I'm being overly critical here, Abby. Maybe I'm just being a little too intense about the end of the year. But I do think there's valuable lessons to be had.
Well, let's build on that. It's not so much that they lost, right? It's maybe more the how they lost. Like the game in Miami was a collapse. The game against the Knicks was a collapse. These are obviously 2 games that you feel like they should have won. They were in position to win, kind of gave it away at the end. And again, they were undermanned, so that is a factor, Abby. But sort of the streak of going cold offensively or turnovers or whatever the case in the given game, does that alarm you at all, or is that just, again, dog days of winter?
So I think that this 3-game losing streak specifically is very different, and that's why I'm not alarmed. And like we've talked about, yes, there were really long scoring droughts, alarming scoring droughts in Miami, but they were without 4 of their top 7 guys. Jayson Tatum's on the floor with Justin Jackson in the first quarter. I mean, and then so late in the fourth quarter, he looks around and he's like, I'm supposed to pass it to you and trust that you're going to make the right basketball play. Like, I've been on the floor with you for 5 minutes this season. I don't take stock in that loss specifically. And then, like you guys said, Orlando is just a juggernaut that can't be stopped by the Boston Celtics. So those 2, I feel like, exist in a vacuum. And then you come back to Boston coming off I feel like the Celtics have been on the road a lot, and I'm not trying to make excuses for them. I just can see how this is happening, why it's happening. And I can also see that there are solutions at hand. And so it's a matter of turning it up. And Joe Mazzulla is really big on the rim reads right now. So focusing in on your rim reads and making the right rim reads on offense. If they have 3 different possessions that don't lead to transition buckets for the Knicks on the other end, this is a completely different game. And so this 3-game losing streak specifically is what I am not alarmed about. And then you add in the fact that it's happening in the very middle of the season, a week or 2 before the All-Star game. So that's why I can't get upset about it. I also was in the room last night, and Jaylen Brown, after missing those 2 free throws, was obviously, I don't want to say distraught, because he is a grown-up and he's not going to let, one game ruin his season and his outlook on life. But he knew he took absolute responsibility for that. He took responsibility for not playing up to his standard throughout the rest of the game and for not sparking any more energy in his teammates. And so the Jaylen that we have seen this season, the guy who brings it every single first quarter, I think that he knows that he did something wrong. He's taking responsibility for it, and he's going to right that ship. So I just can't get too down about these specific 3 games. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm not saying there aren't lessons to be learned. I just think that in this specific incident, I can't get too excited.
Check out Screen Time, movies, streaming, and everything in between with us, Gary Tanguay and Drew Yada.
We watch what you watch, so watch us wherever you get your podcasts, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and we're pretty easy on the eye.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Speak for yourself. Screen Time, movies, streaming, and everything in between.
All right, so we're spending all this time talking about, are we alarmed by a 3-game slide and the way they've lost and yada, yada, yada. What about this stretch they have coming up here, Abby? It's especially 4 out of the next 5. You've got
it's
the
rivalry
Lakers
week in the NBA, guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big deal. You got the Lakers at home on my birthday, by the way. Just putting that
Happy
out there.
birthday.
Are you going to the game?
I should be. I should be going and sitting courtside.
It's at 8:30 at night on a Saturday. You should also be asleep later. I'm upset about that. Anyway,
it's going to be a late night.
And I just want to throw it on the agenda. We have to talk All-Star and if Jayson Tatum is getting enough MVP hype. So let's continue yours, and then
we will do that. But first, this stretch here, rivalry week, like you mentioned. I talk for a living. The Lakers, the Nets at home, the Suns also at home. Detroit sucks. That's in Detroit, and then you've got the
Detroit
Sixers.
won last night, by the way, against KD-less Nets,
like the second worst team in the NBA. So 4 out of the next 5 are tough games that they're dealing with. How important is this stretch? I'll sort of ask the same question I asked earlier, but with respect to this grouping of games, this 5-game sample. Depending on how this goes, will this impact how you view this team at all?
No. I'm sorry. I usually ride the roller coaster. I don't know where this even keel is coming from. This is not my normal personality. I think that
right time.
My normal level of fandom, I'm kind of at a loss. I think that this team has shown me enough through the beginning of the season that I have seen what they're capable of. And so the KD-less Nets, like if they lose to Kyrie, yeah, that would piss me off. But I'm not going to think that it changes their trajectory of the season. And the Lakers, we've seen, and we know this about Jayson Tatum. He gets up to face other superstars. So they're going to bring it in the Laker game. And then the Suns, I would be wary of the Suns, just how badly the Celtics beat them in Phoenix. That was a total, utter embarrassment. And so if the Suns don't come in here and show out, I think that says more about them than it does about the Celtics if they win. And we've seen them, they just have a tendency to play down to the competition. This is not a show me part of the season for me personally. Do you guys feel differently?
I wouldn't make any huge judgments about this team without Marcus Smart playing games.
Absolutely.
I don't think people really understand the level, like how important Marcus Smart is on both ends. And I know look, he just won Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think people understand how important he is on offense as the guy who sets everybody up. And I think we've taken that for granted this year. But
especially in these late game situations that you're seeing in these last 3 games.
Just watch how much more the offense flows when Marcus Smart's the guy either at the helm of it or at least on the floor. We talk about connectors all the time, especially with the Derek White trade, how important that was, how important the Brogdon trade was, how important Rob and Al are. Marcus is that times like a billion because he does it on both ends of the floor as a connector, both as a defensive helper and as an offensive guy. And you're seeing some of that.
And provides a spark of energy in these dull days.
Right. That's exactly right. Because you're missing your main energy guy. So I'm not going to be too alarmed about much just because, again, Marcus Smart's value to the team. I think I'm going to have to look it up. Last time I checked, the Suns are pretty banged up. So if the Suns were to come in here and maybe, blow them out, that would maybe be a little different. Losing to the Lakers would just hurt more than anything else. But no, I'm with Abby. I'm not going to get too crazy unless they go on some huge tailspin dive, but I don't believe they will when they have Jayson Tatum on the roster. So
I will say this is an important stretch for the bench and the depth of this team. And that's something that I believe it was Sam Hauser said the other night, that they believe they are the deepest team in the league, and it's their job to go out there and prove it. And so there's no question the Celtics had enough to beat Miami, especially without Jimmy Butler, and had enough to get that win in Orlando. And it is up to those bench guys. And Sam Hauser, who we know has been in an epic slump, and even Peyton Pritchard needs to step up and take ownership and take control of his offense when he is in the starting lineup in those moments. And so it is, I think, an important stretch for those guys, especially when you look to the playoffs and when Joe has to look down his bench and when the rotation tightens up, see who he trusts and know who he can bring in certain matchups. So I think it is an important stretch for that. I'm not going to do or die by the win-loss column.
As long as they don't drop like 4 out of 5 and all of a sudden lost 7 out of 8 going back, Yeah,
outside of health problems, I'm not going to get too crazy here.
Yeah.
How close
and honestly, I'm at the point this season where no, you don't need to be playing Jayson Tatum 40 minutes against the Orlando Magic. Who cares? Let that one go. It's not.
Well, and that's been the thing with Joe all season. He's, sort of elevating some of those guys' minutes, the Tatum, the Brown, in particular of
and
maybe
that's something with a first-year coach. He wants to win. He's playing to win. I mean,
yeah, but it's not like he wasn't on the staff last year and saw how overworked those guys were by the end and how clearly tired they were by the end. I know they had a mini summer break as compared to, where Tatum and Brown, Tatum in particular, was at that time last year when it was playing overseas and Olympic games and all of that stuff. A little bit different, but I mean, you do need to cut these guys. I hate the load management era. I really do. I still, think back to the 80s and 90s and when I was growing up and when none of that was a thing and guys just played 40 minutes every night and it was okay. But that's just not where we are right now. These guys, whether because of them or the staffs or the teams and the investments, whatever, any range of factors, these guys are babied a little bit. And so if that's what we're doing, you have to embrace it because you're going to need these guys down the stretch.
I agree with you. It's frustrating as a fan. I will say, Kevin McHale, who played through so many injuries, cannot walk right now. Bill Walton has had how many back surgeries because he's in constant pain. And so there are arguments to each side.
I wonder if they would change anything, though. If you actually asked them, I wonder if they would do anything differently, if they wouldn't play as much, if it meant, I don't know, have an attack in a couple more years onto their careers, or obviously, like you said, as they get up there in age, they're not as physically, impaired compared to what they might otherwise be. I do wonder.
I also wonder how Tommy Heinsohn, he was amazing. It was such a long, full, wonderful life. And I mean, yes, he, had some trouble getting around at the end, but he was amazing. So
I want to make sure we have time.
Sorry.
No, I want to make sure we have time to talk about some of the things that you want to talk about too before we do get out of here, which, in 10 minutes or so. But obviously, Jayson Tatum, I was going to say for anyone that missed it, nobody missed it. He's been named an all-star starter, 4th straight year, I believe. So even as he said, you don't ever want to get used to that. And it means so much and what he dreamed of as a kid and on and on. There are a lot of people that believe that Jaylen Brown got,
Wait. First, the bone I want to pick with the Jayson Tatum thing is the NBA released the voting results. Obviously, the fans voted Jayson in. The media had Jayson in. The players had Jayson in 4th out of the East.
A brutal group, though. That's a brutal group. I mean,
making enemies already.
There's 4 guys. He's just not as I don't know. Is he not as funny? I don't get it.
I don't know. And I don't get that sense around the league when we go into these other gyms and no one is like, oh, Jayson. No one does that. And then also
Girls and Jayson.
and I bring it up because recently a scout who has been at a lot of the Celtics teams this season was saying, why isn't Jayson getting more MVP hype? A lot of people, I mean, I saw one article on The Athletic that didn't even have him in the top 5. And it was one of the writers. So it was a sampling. One of the writers didn't have him in the top 5. He's the best player on the best team in the NBA, putting up crazy career numbers for him. I know that relatively the scoring is not like top of the league, but career numbers for him and carrying an incredible load for this team. So those are my 2 points. Why are the players putting him in 4th? And then also, I feel like, and I know in Boston we talk about it a lot, but nationally, I'm not sure he's getting enough MVP hype as he should be.
Well,
what do you guys think?
We've tackled that on past shows, so it's funny that you bring it up. You know, that specific endpoint of, you know, yeah, we celebrate him around here, but is he getting the national hype that he deserves? And I sort of like 5th is egregious. Obviously, he wouldn't be first on my ballot right now. He would be top 3, and I wouldn't give it to Jokic. Just not, you know, dismissing what he's doing, but just I don't know, voter fatigue or the whatever you want to call it. But he's having an otherworldly year. I wonder anytime a guy is playing at the level that he is, but you have another guy that's playing not at the same level, but on a given night at the same level, and overall is still having an exceptional season, a career year like Jaylen Brown is. I just always wonder if guys like that, and I'm not a Hall of Fame voter or a MVP voter or any voter for that matter, but I wonder if these guys take away from each other a little bit in the eyes of the voters, which sort of leads to some of that national, I don't know, ignorance, for lack of a better word.
Well, I think it's the lack of MVP stuff. First off, just like kind of early to really have a concrete footing on who MVP is going to be. Sure. Although, like Nikola Jokic is insane, and if you watch the Nuggets, he's unbelievable. If I had a vote, quote unquote, Tatum would be number 2 for me, just behind Jokic. You know, Curry, the fact that he's been in and out, that either helps or hurts him. Curry's again at a whole another level when he's on the floor. The Luka stuff, like again, his numbers are unbelievable, but like his team is fine, but they're not like 31 and whatever like the Celtics are. That's where I lose it with Luka. But to like not have him top 5, I think you're just not watching basketball. I think that's like really egregious. I have a hard time not putting Tatum in the top 3. In terms of like the media, I think got a lot of things right. Like Tatum was number 1 on their ballot. And if you look at the guard side of it, Jaylen was number 2 on that particular part of the ballot. I think they did a good job of doing things right. The fans are just going to vote for their favorite guys, so I don't really care about that as much. That's why I think the player vote's always very interesting. And for Tatum to be 4th in the list seems like a slap in the face. But think about the other guys like KD. Everybody loves KD in terms of like he's a legendary status. You know, in terms of like Tatum looks up to Kevin Durant and they train together, and I think it's great.
Does everybody love Joel Embiid? That's who came in 3rd.
Yeah, but I it must be like because he's like kind of funny, I guess, but like I don't know, his celebration the other night I think rubbed some people the wrong way. I don't know. It's hard, and I think players respect the fact that like he's just so dominant. Maybe I don't, but so is Tatum. Like I don't get where he could like slide up. I guess it's just the media. I think did a great job of ranking everybody I think correctly. And just Tatum again. Ideally, the starting 5 would be Mitchell, Tatum, Embiid, Giannis, and Durant, because those are the 5 best players in the East right now. But you have to have 2 guards. So Kyrie, of all people, makes it. I don't understand how Kyrie gets there, but I mean,
we don't need
Jaylen should have been.
To go down that rabbit hole. Yeah, if you guys don't want to.
If I would be mad if I were Tyrese Halliburton though. Because Tyrese Halliburton is unbelievable, and that team is successful primarily because Halliburton is an incredible player and an incredible teammate. And if I were going to be mad at anything, I'd be mad that Halliburton wasn't a starter.
All right, one more break. Tell you about our new friends to this show over the last couple of weeks, and we hope they stick around for a good long while. And that is HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients, seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. I have, Evan has. We've shown you. He's put videos out cooking on his Instagram. He's showing you a little bit of the recipe sheet there. You could skip trips to the grocery store. We can all three of us, tell you how annoying those are, especially if you've got kids in tow, by the way. You can count on HelloFresh to make cooking easy at home and affordable too, which is why it's America's #1 meal kit. So you've got New Year's goals. Maybe it's weight loss. Maybe it's just nutrition, eating better, whatever it may be. HelloFresh is here to help you achieve them. So skip the grocery store, take control over your meals, over your time, over your budget, over your diet, all of it, and delicious recipes delivered right to your doorstep, as mentioned. If you're looking for an easy way to eat well and save money this year, I think you know where I'm going with this. HelloFresh, cut back on expensive takeout, hard as that may be at times, believe me, especially when you're low on time. But delivery is easy from HelloFresh. You can get started. You will love how fast, easy, and affordable it is to whip up a restaurant quality meal right in your own kitchen. And again, Evan has shown you these pictures of the end result, posting all over his foodie Instagram page. And HelloFresh it's getting a prominent spot. So again, HelloFresh.com/beat21. That's BEAT21. Use the code BEAT21 for 21 free meals and free shipping as well. America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh. Abby, I don't know if you are something of a chef, but HelloFresh is you should check them out if you haven't.
We did a meals kit service after I had Mabel with the one child, and it was great because one person could hang out with the baby while the other person cooked. Then when we had 2 kids, that all went downhill. And now my children won't eat anything that has a speck, even just a tiny little speck of pepper on it. So anything with flavor or throwing some cilantro, God forbid, will not get eaten in my house. So sadly.
Just eating out of cereal boxes. Yep. Survival of the fittest.
Yep. Whatever. Survive and advance to the next day. That's all I care about.
We're sports and life. Survive and advance. That's all we try and do.
Love it. Yes, to sit down and cook a HelloFresh meal. And I know that they are quick and only take a half hour. It's still, Adam, with 3, a half hour can be an eternity if your children don't have you.
Yeah. Real clock watching.
Yeah.
Experience. But Evan, you living the not single, but living a lone bachelor life anyway, you can do this all the time.
Yeah. And usually I'll tell you, cooking for me a lot of times is like an hour and a half process. So the fact I can do it about 45 is a huge win for me. I don't like eating at 9:30 at night, but like sometimes it's just the way my schedule works out. I just feel bad about myself. So the fact that it cuts down on time and I don't have to go look, I don't mind going to the grocery store. I'm usually in and out pretty quickly, but like on Sundays, forget about it. You won't find me in there. But if I can bypass that, things are great. HelloFresh. And not only that, the deal, everybody, 21 free meals, free shipping for free. That's bananas. That's like a month's worth of food for nothing. That's just a crazy deal right now.
When I hear free that many times in a row, I'm just happy. Just puts me in a good place.
That's right.
All right, we only have a couple minutes left in this show, but looking down sort of obviously, Abby, like you'll be back with us sooner than later, but looking down the sort of the not quite second half, but as all-star on the cusp, like you said, is there a worry that you have around this team right now? It's easy for us to, you said you're not riding the roller coaster and good for you. Plenty of people are, and that, so just beside themselves over losing these last few games. Others are keeping things in perspective and just saying, all right, well, they're still #1 in the league. But what do you think would make you a little more reactionary as they move forward over the next couple of weeks?
I don't want to pull a Kaufman and jinx this thing, but injuries, I think,
worse for that. That's a really awful question considering your history last week. I'm just going to throw that out. Abby, if you don't want to answer this question,
I just asked somebody else.
We say it all the time that it takes luck to get to that point, to get to the end. Some luck, and especially some really good injury luck to get to the NBA Finals. And the Celtics so far this season have been really lucky to not have, aside from missing Rob Williams at the beginning of the year, to not have missed any other big chunks of time. And so that would concern me a lot. I really am. And to the point where I said earlier that let's watch the minutes. Let's manage these injuries. Let's see you want them to be in prime shape for the playoffs. So whatever it's going to take, whatever all of the people in the medical group of the Celtics, they have their own wing at the Auerbach Center, whatever they deem necessary, let's just do that. I want to do that.
Do you have anything to tease for Saturday night's game against the Lakers? Are you guys, it's a big rivalry. It always is. Are you guys doing anything special on the broadcast to commemorate my birthday / LeBron being in town?
We do have an hour-long pregame show. Scal, Eddie, all the favorites. Hoping to get a one-on-one with Al Horford tomorrow at shoot around. But I do think it was interesting. One of the talking points last night was that surprising run to the Eastern Conference Finals with Jayson in his rookie season, Jalen in his second, Terry Rozier at the point, Marcus Smart out there as well, but no Kyrie or Gordon Hayward, and going toe-to-toe with LeBron James in his prime, coming up just short in Game 7 at TD Garden, and what kind of experience that was for those players, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown in particular, and molding them. And that's something that we always used to talk about. These guys have so much postseason experience for such a young age. Everything that Jayson Tatum has been through. And even I remember talking to Steph Curry. This was I think it was during the bubble. It was while we were doing Zoom interviews. But I asked him, do you see similarities between the Splash Brothers and the Jays? And he said, yes, in that we were both drafted and brought up by the same organization, but they have so much more experience than we did at that time. Like my team lost so much early on in my career. The fact that they have experienced all of this already is remarkable. And so I think we sometimes lose sight of that. And I think that we also lose sight of the fact that these guys are just 24 and 25 years old. Primes in the NBA are 27, 28, 29. And then you look at LeBron and whatever heck he's doing. So we got to enjoy these times. I'm trying to, in the words of Jayson Tatum, not take it for granted, enjoy the journey and focus on the good is where I am at looking at the second half of the season. That's my New Year's resolution, I guess.
I love it. I just only hope we get to a point, and whether it's this year, and I really do feel good about their ability this year, obviously, especially given that they're deeper and got so far last year and all of that. But it'd be wonderful. I think I say this for all Celtics fans to have the conversation about how many will they win as opposed to will they ever win. I need them to.
You're doing it again.
I need them to get over that hump.
I was no part of that.
It's hard to win one. Like it's hard to win one, and you can make you could go.
I know. So win the one. Win the one.
Not one. Not two. Not three. Not four.
I'm not. No, I won't get into any of that until they win the one. Win the one, and then we can worry about the not two, not three, not four. But win the one,
right?
Because there's so much here. There's so much here.
There's a lot here. This team has accomplished a lot and not a lot of time. And again, as Abby says, we take that for granted all the time. Steph Curry didn't win until he was 26, and Jayson Tatum is about to enter his 25th birthday in a few weeks here, and he's scoring. The one thing that we didn't talk about, Jayson Tatum, they talked about in the broadcast last night, is on pace to break Larry Bird's all-time scoring record for a season at age 24, 25. And because they've experienced so much winning so far that we barely even register that. Larry Bird, one of the greatest players in the history of basketball, arguably the greatest Celtic, I'd say second after obviously Bill Russell, whose documentary is coming out soon. We definitely don't put perspective on what they've accomplished at their age because we're so used to it. But this is not how it goes ever. This is amazing. So, Kaufman, we're here to put you in, and we're trying to get rid of all your bad juju here with all you trying to make us project things. It's crazy. Yeah,
that Bill Russell 2-part Netflix documentary, by the way, premieres on February 8th. We're hoping to get the director of that program on with us to talk a little bit about, all the ins and outs of it. So maybe, just maybe, that will even come your way next week. We will see.
Okay. I was going to say episode 500.
No. Talk to Eddie. Tell Eddie. Shoot Eddie a text. Maybe he'll respond to you and tell him that we got to get him on. Got to get him on. I'll let him know on Saturday. I'll say it's his birthday. You got to commit to something. To help a guy out. Tell him to shoot me a text from the Garden. I'll pull his jersey out of the closet. We'll make it happen. It'll be great. I'll sit here and wear it. One of the hardest jerseys I ever efforted to find many years ago. By the way, I got it like out of a guy's trunk. All right, thanks for tuning in to Celtics Beat. Avi Chin and Valenti. I'm Adam Kaufman. This show, of course, is powered by HelloFresh. We will catch you next time, and the Celtics, God willing, will have ended this skid. See you later.